All right. We did a poll. We did a poll the other day to see if what time people would want to tune in on Saturday. We'll see if anyone actually does. I know I wouldn't, so I don't blame
At
you.
10 a.m. on a Saturday?
Yeah, that's what most people asked for.
We'll see.
So if you can hear the background at all, we're watching The Price is Right, which is, I would categorize it today as like a comedy. It's just like the things they're playing for and the prices of the things they're playing for and the style of the things they're playing for is just hilarious. It is absolutely amazing. Although we can't figure out what year we're watching of The Price is Right. It's like that weird time where like 70s fashion is bleeding into 80s fashion. So I don't know. Bob Barker was the host for like 45 years. So apparently you could buy a Honda. No, does Honda make? No, Mazda's
It
its
was a
own
Mazda.
Mazda. It was a Mazda. You could buy a Mazda back in the day for like $6,000, brand new.
Those are the
I looked up
days.
the price for that now, and it's like it's not an expensive car, but it's like $23,000, $25,000, something like that. A decent four a price increase, four times over. And then a lot of these things have just been made obsolete by technology. I would say at least 70% of the things on this show have been made obsolete by just the smartphone. It's incredible. Apparently, there's a thing called a Watchman back in the day, which is it looked like a transistor radio, with a little tiny TV screen on it, but it was like a brick. All right, there we go. I had to. The comments were turned off for some reason. That's annoying. People are showing up. I was like, where is everybody? But it was. I had to change a setting on there. Lots of greetings. Lots of greetings. First question. So, do you fish in Texas? Yeah, primarily. Although the thumbnail for this live stream is actually a photo I took in Florida like 2 days ago. What's up? Castnet videos in the abandoned parks. Yeah, I enjoy those. The abandoned park videos. I love those so much. Um, I am so happy that the abandoned Six Flags video is finally getting some attention, because when I filmed it, that was one of, and I said this back then. It like did horrible when I released it. Got like 16,000 views, which is abysmal, like embarrassing. And then I was so sad because it was one of my favorite videos I've ever made. And then John B does like the laziest video going there ever. And he spends the begin. I don't want to rag on John B too much, but I find it funny that he spent the beginning of that video being like, "Oh, we're gonna do something today that's gonna get us arrested. Here we go." And then he gets there and he's like, "Oh, I can't really get in." And then he tries and he gets stopped, and then he plays the good boy and he's like, oh, please, I didn't mean to break the law. And then he talks to the camera, addressing whoever he thinks the owner of the property is, saying like, we don't want to do anything illegal, we just would love to show people. It's like, you literally bragged about doing something illegal in the beginning of your own video. It's like maybe he forgot to edit that out. I know he edits his own stuff. I've heard people that have worked with him say he edits his own stuff. But yeah, so he made that video, and just because of the size of his subscriber base, it got stupid views, even though he basically just looked at it from a distance. Um, but the name of that park being in the YouTube algorithm got mine going, and now it's reached well over 110,000 views, which is quite nice. John B looked at the place from like a mile away. I caught multiple fish off the top of a roller coaster, so. Yeah, abandoned parks. I'm always looking for more if you know where they are. Love to do some more abandoned park videos. Happy Saturday. Yeah, it's been a good Saturday so far. Lots of good mornings. When am I going to fish the Trinity next? Right now, guys, like half the rivers in Texas are flooded. That has been so difficult for me recently, is the amount of rain that we're getting. And it's going to rain all next week, according to the forecast. This is, of all the years I can remember doing this, I've been doing this for about 6 years, like 2.5 as a pro, like full time. But, you know, I can't remember a year with this much, like, on and off constant rain that just doesn't stop. Like, it is just, the weather's been unpredictable. So the Trinity is a bit flooded right now. The Brazos is flooded. It's supposed to go down soon, so we'll see. The Six Flags video is awesome. I appreciate that. It's one of my favorites that I've ever made. I'd put it in my top 10 favorite videos that I've made. Where around Houston do you fish? I live about an hour from Houston and want to make a trip to get mainly some tilapia and carp. Well, I fish all over the place, but if you want tilapia and carp, let me think. Because there's a lot of spots you can do it, but some are easier than others. Brays Bayou is loaded with both. Yeah, I'd say, you know, if you want to fish in the city, Brays Bayou is got loads of carp and loads of tilapia. What happened to all the massive koi they had at Six Flags? You know, I don't know. I would hope they got moved, but you know, I don't know. It would depend, I think, on whether there was an actual like care provider for the fish that like was coordinating the efforts, or if the koi were just a result of someone being like, we need something over here that looks good, put some fish in it. You know, if that was the case, it'd probably get left there. One of the things I did once at the Houston Zoo was we had to move every single koi out of the orangutan exhibit. If you guys have been to the Houston Zoo, that's one of the areas that's still the same largely. Is the We're in the World of Primates. You go in there, and then like if you take an immediate right, the orangutans are right there, and that big pond around them doesn't look like it, but there are hundreds of koi in there, and for some reason I can't remember why. I think they had to clean the thing out. We had to move them all, and moving fish, especially when they're like 20-pound koi, is not easy. Not easy at all. So I can only imagine that whoever was in charge of the koi at Six Flags, because that's the whole point of a zoo, is you have all these trained professionals that like their entire existence is to maintain the health and safety of these animals. If you just have a bunch of people who care about how much money they made off a ride today, I wouldn't think they'd go through the efforts that I can tell you from experience it takes to move koi out of their pond. Check out Prudential Circle off Williams Trace. Fish, fish, fish.
Ooh, that's not bad.
Help me remember that. I will check it out. What kind of fish, though? I love bass fishing. The bass fishing videos. Yeah, bass fishing is fun. I'm not very good at it. Like, I can catch bass when they are there to be caught. You know, like I'm not gonna be doing the, oh, what's that guy's name? Roland something. I can't remember his name. Great legendary bass fisherman. Something Roland or Roland something. Like, I'm not gonna be doing any of that. But I would. What do you call it? If there's like a small canal where I can tell where they're gonna be, I love bass fishing. Would I ever consider fishing in San Antonio waters in the future? I enjoy your videos and the hard work you do to make it happen. Great job. I appreciate that. I've fished in San Antonio a couple of times with no success. So I've already tried it a bunch of times. It just didn't work out into a video, but I'll be back. When will I come to the PNW? I actually have a big trip officially lined up. Not there, but I have a big trip officially lined up for the first week of June that I've been trying to do for a couple of years. So really, really excited about this. I'll tell you all what that is when get closer to the day. Actually, I won't tell you what it is until it's posted, because if I don't catch anything, I'll be incredibly embarrassed.
You should say
Down in Port Aransas for the weekend to do some beach fishing. Any tip for catching anything but hardheads and whiting? I am not the right guy to ask about that. Watch or message Beach Bomber Fishing. He's the saltwater guru. I would probably just catch hardheads with you. Although I think who was it? It was my friend Brian from the H-Town Angler Shark Fishing Team was saying that they were down there recently and it was just seaweed, seaweed, seaweed. So watch out for the seaweed. Hello from Rio Grande City area. I've always wanted to catch a gar, and there are plenty around where I live, but I've never caught a fish that big, so kind of scared. You motivate me to want to try though. Yeah, I mean, just watch some of the basics on how to, fight and handle them. There's a lot of good YouTubers that are very good at catching these fish. Well, I take that back. There's not a lot, and that's just because fishing for them is not that popular. But there's a number besides myself. But just kind of watch the things we do to handle them when they're in close, and you'll be all right. Get a good lariat rope. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys heard this, but alligator gar are now officially classified as a threatened species, which is sad in one sense, but it's good that the attention is being taken to acknowledge it. I've been saying they should be considered a threatened species for a couple of years on YouTube now. So to see that it finally happened is good. Now, what I'll be pissed about is if they say, yeah, they're threatened, and then nothing else. Like, we're not going to change any of the regulations that allow you to indiscriminately kill, a fish that could be 70 years old and 8 feet long. Like, we're not going to take them off the bow fishing, list. Like, if Texas doesn't follow through on protecting them after they've been officially classified as threatened, you will know something is very wrong with the way that Texas Parks and Wildlife are doing their stuff. So I would expect one of those things to be the next step. Some official regulations regarding seasons, tackle, bow fishing would be the big one for me. One of those needs to change. We've officially classified them as threatened. You kind of don't have an excuse now. All right. Caught a monster drum in my hometown near the Texas border. I honestly don't remember that. I don't remember that. I won't reveal the location. I don't remember the location. But I suggest you keep going down that. Oh, the other border. I was thinking the wrong border. Yeah. Looking at the map, it looks like really hard to get down to the end. Maybe if I have a kayak. I do want to go back there, but with flooding and all the, the river outlets around the state being what it is, I'm waiting for the weather to get better. Roland Martin, yes, thank you. That's who I was thinking of. Roland Martin, quite a character, but he did this video where he was in his boat, his bass boat, and he was flipping and pitching is the technique he was using to catch bass. And the dude was just like, I swear he has x-ray vision. He could just look at the water and be like, okay, there's going to be one here. And then he would just hit this 10-pounder and flip it in the boat. And I'm like, how did he do that? I don't do that with bass. It's, Roland Martin. Very talented man. What do I think of Rodney Dangerfield? He doesn't get no respect. Honestly, I know Rodney Dangerfield the way a young person today would know Christopher Walken. I know of the impression of Rodney Dangerfield. I've seen a little bit of his stand-up. I saw him in Natural Born Killers, which is a movie I just can't. I need to watch that one again. I did not enjoy it the first time. Rodney Dangerfield, he is who he is. Got to be on the falling tide, though, and fish the holes close to the jetty wall. Oh, I see what you're saying. That's the secret. All right, secret noted. My dog is chewing on my hand as we speak. Come here. Come here. I'm sitting on the couch with my wife over to my left and the dog. Hey, baby girl. Where are you going? Hey, can I have kisses? Thank you. She loves to give me all the kisses. Thank you, baby girl. Thank you, baby. Good girl. Okay. You want a toy? She has brought me. Let's count. She has brought me raccoon. She has brought me stingray. She has brought me rope. She has brought me turtle. And she has brought me reindeer. So she has brought me like 5 different toys. Which one do you want? You want raccoon? She wants raccoon. Go get him. And here she is. Ugh. This is a game. She likes. I call it bites. She'll play fetch just so she can bring me the toy, and we can play a game of like, I try to grab it, she tries to grab me. Anyway, more light tackle fishing and some bow fishing of sewer fish. You know, I wanted to go back and do exactly that, but because I'm not gonna lie, that's a very easy go-to when things are rough because those fish can't go anywhere. I know they're going to be there. So if I'm having a really rough time, I like to go to that sewer plant. But the bow fishing videos don't do very well. Even, and I don't really like bow fishing in general. And by the way, last time I talked about bow fishing on here, somebody was like, oh, you condemn bow fishing, but you do bow fishing. It's like, no, I condemn bow fishing for vulnerable species like alligator gar. If you want to shoot an invasive species like a tilapia, or if you do like what Cavi does, my favorite YouTube channel, where he's like literally bow fishing for food off the islands of Indonesia, like that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. Just don't shoot a 50-year-old fish that weighs 200 pounds. Like, don't do that. Anyway, yeah, I would do the bow fishing video. I would do another one, except it just did really poorly. So I need to study more about the trends that make bow fishing videos successful. And that doesn't just mean looking at a successful one and copying it, because some videos can be successful for a variety of factors you can't yourself replicate. So you need to look at all the successful ones and then note the pattern and what they have in common in regards to titles and thumbnails and the way they've been presented. And then you base the structure of yours off of that. So I need to do a little bit more studying of the bow fishing videos on YouTube as to what makes them more popular, because the way I did it did not work out. Good morning. I've seen your podcast, well, live stream, and I really enjoy them. Do all garfish grow as large as the ones you catch? I'll be heading down there and fishing for catfish and gar. Do all gar grow huge? No, there's 7 species of gar. Only the alligator gar, and then only the alligator gar gets as large as the alligator gar that I catch. Because I've caught them as big as they get. I mean, 8 feet 2 inches is literally that far off the world record. So I've caught them as big as they get. So only those ones get that big, but the hybrids get pretty big as well. They don't get that big, but they get sizable. But they're also much more rare. So spotted gar, long-nosed gar, those types of gar, they're not going to get very big. So alligator gar specifically get that big. Extreme Philly fishing, and you should team up for some light tackle fun. Yeah, but I mean, isn't he in like Philly? Like that. A lot of people. And I'm not saying that you're reminding me of this thought. I'm not talking about you here. I'm not saying you think this, but your comment about a collab made me think of this. A lot of people seem to think that all YouTubers know each other, and that like you can just go collaborate with any YouTube creator you want anytime you want. Like I'm gonna call up Luke from Catfish and Carp on the phone and be like, "Hey man, we need to go fishing." Like it's almost like trying to contact like a celebrity. Not that he's a celebrity, but his channel is so big and so successful. I would have to go through channels to get his attention, and even then, there's no guarantee I could get him to do anything. He's a nice guy, but people are busy. They have schedules. It's funny because people would be like, how come you haven't done a collaboration with John B? It's like, because he's John B. Like, he has things he's doing. He has he has like I don't know, how many subscribers does he have? Over a million? Probably. I bet he does. Like, it's not that easy. You don't just go collaborate with people. But there are a couple of people I've wanted to collaborate with that I think I could collaborate with. Have you ever thought of catfishing from a kayak? Um, Kind of, but not really. I mean, like, alligator gar fishing from a kayak is something that I'm planning on doing. And when I say planning, I mean basically I'm just waiting for the rivers to stop flooding. I actually went out and tried to film a video on the Trinity because somebody was asking. Alligator gar fishing from a kayak, but the water was so flooded that I couldn't paddle my kayak upstream because the water was moving so fast. So I had to like do it bit by bit by bit, or I wouldn't have been able to get back to where I started. So like that kind of canceled my fishing trip that day. And I've just been waiting for the water to just take a break because all this rain is just killing me. Oh, he travels to Texas and Florida a lot. That's why I asked. Oh, okay. Well, I here's the thing. Like, as you guys might be able to tell from the sheer lack of them on my page, I'm not a big fan of collaborations. And I was reading some research, like actual statistics on collaborations for YouTubers. And generally speaking, the crossover in subscribers for collaborations doesn't really exist. There's a lot of people think like, oh, two guys or two people collaborate, and then one creator gets all the subscribers from the other that they don't already have, but that doesn't actually happen. 99 times out of 10, I mean, that doesn't make sense. 99 times out of 100, it's just a whoever is the fan of one YouTuber is watching, being like, oh, they had so and so on, and that's the end of it. There's very little crossover, unless the only exception is if the one of the creators has a significantly larger creator base. I mean, like a subscriber base. So if you have 100,000 and you collaborate with somebody who has over 1 million subscribers, yes, you're going to get some. But if you both have relatively the same number, there's almost no benefit from it. And then the problem with collaboration is that it's hard to do. Like, your schedules have to align. You can't really move locations that easily if you're bringing lots of gear and different vehicles and you're setting up shop somewhere to film. Like, it becomes very difficult to do what you need to do to get a film done. I mean, it's doable, but it's not the style of filming that I like. There's a couple of guys that I like to do collaborations with that I've filmed with a couple of times. I do enjoy fishing with Beach Bomber Fishing. I enjoy filming with the H-Town Anglers team. I mentioned Brian a moment ago. I like filming with them, and the benefit for me is that they can do things I can't do very well. When I want to try to make a really good saltwater video, I like to collaborate with them sometimes because they're better at saltwater fishing than I am. That's the payoff for me. I'm not getting their subscribers. Or in the case of, like, here's a good example. Beach Bomber Fishing and I have almost the exact same amount of subscribers, and I bet a lot of them are the same. And then the H-Town Anglers team are just getting started. So they might benefit from subscribers from my channel going to theirs, and by the way, they should go subscribe. But like, again, when I have to think to myself, like, what's the benefit of a collaboration, there's not as many benefits as people seem to think. All right. Whew. Speaking of traveling to Florida, that's the reason that there's no video today, guys. There's two things. If you're wondering why there's no video this morning, things have been kind of rough. A lot of it's just weather related, and then combine that with bad days, and combine that with I'm working on a project for a video that I've been working on, I would say going on a year now at this point. And I'm closer to having it finished than I ever have been. But something unexpected happened during filming that threw the project off. Like the project took a left turn I wasn't expecting. There's nothing I can do about it except continue to lengthen the project and see if the result is the same. You'll understand all this when I post the video. It's a video that I've been trying to make for a very long time because I think it's going to be a very successful video, and it's a video I haven't seen anyone else on YouTube do before. But I was out of state trying to film it. I was in Florida filming a part of it, and I would have had that video up today, except for the weird thing that happened. It made me decide I need to keep filming to lengthen the video to kind of get an explanation in as to why it happened. And I did film a video up there, a very good one actually, one of the better videos I filmed in saltwater, casting spoons into the surf and catching just loads, nonstop predator action on lures on the Florida coast. And that video went up this morning on Patreon because I filmed it just for Patreon. So I would have felt really, really bad if I made a video just for the supporters on Patreon, and then because I failed to get the other one done, said, actually, no, sorry, you don't get this exclusive video. I wasn't going to let that happen, so I resigned myself to doing a live stream today instead. So yeah, if you're interested in that video, you can check out the Patreon page because it's a good video. And I drove all the way to Florida for it. And by the way, I did it. Oh god, this is a whole story in itself. I talked a little bit about this on Instagram, but I'll talk more about it here. I drove to Florida. What day did I leave? Tuesday. I left Tuesday at 10 p.m. I like to drive overnight because the traffic's not as bad. And then when you get to your location, generally you get there, just before sunrise, peak fishing time, right? Houston to Pensacola is like 8 hours on a good day, 9.5 on a bad day. So I drove to Pensacola, and it was a bad day, like driving. So plus stops, putting gas in the car and stuff like that, took almost 10 hours. And then, so 10 hours straight. I did not take any breaks. Straight. I get to Pensacola, Florida, and I get out to my location, and I start filming immediately. And I film all day long. And then I get right in the car, and I drive right back. And I'm like, at this point, it's Wednesday night creeping into Thursday morning. So it's like I'm driving, and it's Thursday, 2 a.m. And I'm driving, and I'm somewhere in like Louisiana or something on the way back. And I don't think I had gotten any sleep since Monday night. So I've gone almost like 50 hours or more without sleep, which doesn't sound that hard, but start thinking about it. Like start actually thinking about how many days that is. It's 2 full days, 24-hour cycles of no sleep plus some. And you're working real hard because you're trying to film outdoors in the heat, and you're driving. And on the way back, I was just going to power through it because I've done this drive to Florida quite a few times now. I think this is like the third or fourth time I've done it just this year. And I did it a few times last year. And it's always the same. The drive up is long and not fun, but it's easy. And the drive back is like it'll break you. It's so hard. And you just got to know that going into it. That's like the last lap on a run, basically, when you're doing sprints or something. It's the last 100-yard sprint in your set. It's the last round of Muay Thai. That one is the one that's going to break you. And I was like powering through it, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get home by 2 a.m. Thursday morning. I'm going to do it. And then suddenly I start hallucinating, which has never happened to me before. And just by the way, if there's anyone on here who is, and I always get comments from people like this, so I don't know if there's anyone in the live stream like this who try to like play like morality police, and they try to convince me that I'm a bad person because I don't live like a fictional 25-year-old in the 1950s, like in Leave It to Beaver. I'm not 25, by the way, but you get what I'm saying. So when I say the next thing, if it offends your sensibilities, I'm so sorry. But I have a feeling most of you have probably been there and done that, and then some. So I have been both drunk and I have been just high out of my mind. That one was an accident. And neither of those, like not doing either of those, have I ever hallucinated. When I've been drunk, it's been like light. Apparently, I have like an insanely high tolerance to alcohol, which I don't think is actually a good thing. I don't know. I need to do some research on that. Um, I don't go crazy. I have rules for myself and stuff like that. Like I can't like I don't drink whenever I want. I can't drink as much as I want. Like I have a firm set of rules I play by. Um, but like there's been a few days where I was like, I want to see how far I can take this, and like it's insane for a guy who's like 5'7". It's amazing how much I can handle. But anyway, neither of those times, like when I'm drunk, I just feel really good, and I talk a lot more than I do even now, which should tell you something. Like I'll just talk too much. And then the one time I got high, I did an edible, and I did the whole thing because I didn't know how much you're supposed to do, and it was a nightmare. It was so bad because I used to suffer from really bad anxiety as a teenager, like crippling anxiety, to the point where like it would actually affect my ability to do like basic things like walk and stuff like that. On really bad days, I wouldn't be able to like move. Um, and when I got really like wasted on that edible, two things happened. Number one, that anxiety came back, and then two, I lost the ability to tell time. um, it's weird. It's hard to explain, but like it wasn't just like, oh, what time is it? Like you normally do. It was like I couldn't comprehend the passing of time, and that freaked me out. And that's why the anxiety came back. And I was just in and out of consciousness constantly, and I was freaking out the whole time. I think if I did it again and I did less, I would just kind of chill and be able to take it better, knowing what I was in for. But I didn't know what I was in for. But anyway, the point is, I've never hallucinated before, even through that stuff. There's no hallucinations. But when you are sleep deprived, you will see all kinds of interesting things that don't exist. At one point, when I was driving back, the sky turned into the ocean, like waves on the ocean. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I was just like, what is happening? And then I would see things like, I saw like a, I don't want to call it a robot because that sounds like I'm talking about Transformers. But imagine like if you're a Trekkie, imagine like the Borg cube, or like imagine a Rubik's cube with no color. I just saw something like that, gigantic, like just shifting shapes on the highway, and then it disappeared. And then the one that made me decide that it was time to pull over, I was uh, I was driving, and I'm just like I'm just trying to stay awake, and I see a tiger's face. So like a big cat, like a Bengal tiger. I see a tiger's face in the sky, and I'm like, this is not real. This is not real. And then suddenly that tiger's face just like dissolves into a red light, and then I'm like, okay, we're done. Like we're done. So I pulled over and I got a couple hours of sleep, and everything was fine, and I drove home the rest of the way. But yeah, being sleep deprived will make you legitimately hallucinate. So yeah, I hallucinated out of my mind and nearly crashed multiple times to film this video that I'm working on. So when I come out with a final project, I hope y'all appreciate it. All right, let's see what else we got here. What model GoPro do I use? I use the Hero 8 Black, and I prefer that one over a lot of the other kinds because a lot of the newer GoPros, even though I mean they are better in a lot of respects, they are very buggy from what I understand. They're not very heat resistant, and they might have fixed that in the newest iteration, but I know like the 9 and the 10. I think the 11 is out now. The 9 and the 10 both are not good with the heat at all. And being a YouTuber in Texas, outdoor YouTuber in Texas, that's not an option for me. I have to have a camera that can film the heat, or I don't have a job. So the Hero 8 Black is the one that is the least buggy and has the best heat resistance. So that's the one I use, and I do enjoy it. And it can film in 4K and has a lot of the bells and whistles the newer ones still have. So it's a good camera. Let's see. See. Da. It's like I missed some questions. Cheers from Oceanside, California. We were just talking about going to California the other day. My wife has been to California. I have not been to California. What species am I going after next? Well, I'm not gonna say because it's gonna be that big project. If I start saying what the project is, it might give it away. And I want it to be a surprise because it's gonna be super cool. So that's a secret. Found you from a shark fishing video years ago. Really good video you made. I wanted to ask your opinion on RC bait boat when shore fishing. Cheers, and sorry to hear about the troubles. Now that's quite all right. I mean, weather is going to be weather. Probably referring to the very outdated shark fishing for beginners. To give you an idea of how outdated that is, some of the basics in there are still good basics for beginners. But like nobody was using drones to fly shark baits out when I made that video. People were just using kayaks or shore casting. So that's how far we've come. That even just bait deployment, the whole section on bait deployment is outdated now. But to answer your question, I wouldn't spend money on a RC boat for bait deployment when you could just buy a drone. Because a drone is going to be more powerful, it's going to be faster, it's going to be more reliable. If you get a good brand like Swell Pro or Wellbot, something like that, they are very good. I'm having a bit of trouble with mine right now, actually. I have the controller right next to me. Something happened to it. And by the way, this is not a knock on drones because all electronics are going to have issues. All of them. When I turn it on, maybe if there's anyone out there with drone knowledge, you can tell me. When I turn it on, it says, please place all the switches in the upright position. And you can see that they are. So I asked some guys what they thought, and they said, well, there's probably sand in it or it's got bad batteries. So I got new batteries, and I opened it up, and I used compressed air to clean it out. I mean, like, every last bit of sand is out of that thing now, and brand new batteries, and it still does that. So if there's any drone experts out there and you think you know what's going on, I'd love the advice, because I really kind of need this thing to be working. I paid way too much money for it to not work. Can I talk about your beginnings as a gar fisherman? Who taught you why garfish, etc.? Thank you. What are you doing? Talking. My dog is trying to eat something. Don't eat that. Yeah, gar fishing. So originally the YouTube channel was supposed to be, and still will be, by the way. I have a plan about just a variety of wildlife in general, hence the name. And then I kind of got into the fishing aspect because that was a type of wildlife that was easy to get on camera comparative to other stuff. You need more expensive cameras to film birds and mammals because reptiles and fish you can catch. And then I'm trying to think of when I first started alligator gar fishing. I think the attempt was mostly to just kind of replicate what you'd see on River Monsters. I needed a freshwater fish that was significantly large. And of course, in Texas, we have one of the largest freshwater fish in the world. So I started going after alligator gar. And, nobody taught me. Like, there's no person that taught me how to alligator gar fish. You Google a couple of things, and then it's like, just some basics as far as like, okay, well, we need a strong rod and a strong reel. We need strong line. We need, wire, because obviously they have incredibly sharp teeth. And then you start going trial and error, and you're like, okay, this rod has too soft of an action to set the hook on this fish. And then you go, okay, well, hang on a second. If I am setting the hook further back into his mouth, the rod can have a softer action. Then you say, well, hang on a second. Unhooking a alligator gar from back here is not good for the fish, and it's not easy to do. Let's try to use circle hooks. Okay, circle hooks bounce off their jaw What if I open the circle hook up a little bit? Well, it did better that time, but it still came off. Okay, so we open up the circle hook a little bit, and we change the way you set a circle hook. Instead of just tightening down, you tighten down and then you set the hook, and then instead of setting the hook traditionally, you set the hook like you're fly fishing. And I started just piecing all these things together myself, and that's how I learned how to catch them. I'm self-taught in that respect. I didn't learn from anyone. It took years of practice and years of constant practice. You guys on a good week, you see 2 videos. On a normal week or a rough week, you see 1 video. And then sometimes, like today, you don't see video of the week. But I promise you, I'm filming every single day. In fact, I haven't been able to train any like Muay Thai or Jiu Jitsu or do any of the things that I normally want to do for like 2 weeks now, because I've just been filming all day, every day. I don't have time. Despite the fact that you haven't seen any videos recently, I'm still filming all day, every day. So there is a lot of trial and error to learn things. Even if you don't see that many videos, I'm doing it constantly. So yeah, I learned myself how to do it, which is why I do it differently than a lot of people. I still think I'm like the only, and I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna tiptoe around it. I'm one of the main alligator gar guys. Um, there until recently I was just kind of tiptoeing around that, but I'm not. I'm done tiptoeing around it. I'm one of the main guys who catches alligator gar, just in general, like period. Um, and I still think I'm the only guy like that who's using circle hooks on alligator gar, and I just don't understand why more people haven't caught on to it. Like, yes, if you use a barbless single hook, you can get it out of its throat. But if you use the techniques that I've proven over and over and over work, you could put a circle hook right here and just get it out instantly. I don't understand why more people aren't doing that. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you why certain people aren't doing it. There are some people who, and I'm not going to name anyone, but there are certain people who basically refuse to do anything that they feel like they didn't come up with, which is silly. You should do whatever works. Yeah, if you use the circle hook techniques that I go over and talk about in like the How to Catch Alligator Gar video, the hookup ratio and the unhooking ratio goes dramatically up, even compared to the small bait hook techniques. So I think I'm a little bit ahead of the rest of the game in that respect. Wanted to stop by and say hi before I go to work. I'll watch the full stream later. I appreciate it. Saying what up from San Antonio. Oh, I caught you in live. What's up? Gonna start gar fishing soon. Awesome. Get after it. New fan here. I appreciate it. Thank you for being a fan. Is it illegal to use treble hooks fishing for gar, or you don't like them? It is not, but it should be. It should be. A treble hook is, like, if you're using a treble hook on an artificial lure, that's fine, because the whole point of an artificial lure is you strike on the strike, right? It's catching whatever fish it is, it's catching it on the outside of its mouth. That's totally fine. But the way you have to fish for alligator gars, you have to let them adjust the bait into their mouth, so that a hook is going to catch either here, or if you do what I do, you can get it here. Not at the corner, but just behind the corner of the mouth with the circle hook. And treble hooks are almost impossible to get out of an alligator gar's mouth. The chances, and there's some people who can do it with certain types of treble hooks, but the chances of unhooking it safely drop dramatically. The chances of the fish dying go up dramatically. Think about your throat. That's your throat, right? That's an alligator gar's throat. This is where water goes through to get to his gills. This is where all of his food goes through. A single hook is going to hook, the top, the side, the bottom, and that's it. A treble hook can literally hook the bottom and hook the top and close that fish's throat, so it's going to suffocate and die and not be able to eat. Treble hooks are bad news. Don't ever use treble hooks for alligator gar fishing. There is no excuse for it. Even Texas. What are you? Hang on a second. Stop. What are you doing? She's like trying to eat my computer cord. Texas Parks and Wildlife was like, oh, if you're gonna use the treble hook, use the small one, and I'm like, don't use them at all. It just, I swear to God, Texas Parks and Wildlife is missing a step when it comes to these fish. Anyway, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see someone, to know what somebody should be doing, and then to see them to just not do it for some reason. So yeah, it's not illegal, but please do not do it. It is not necessary. And this is coming from a guy whose job it is to catch alligator gar and who has caught one of the biggest ones ever filmed. You don't need treble hooks, no matter what anyone else tells you. The biggest alligator gar I have caught was 6 feet. 6 feet whenever I was like, it was 6 feet. It was 6 feet long. You were 8 years old. Haven't been able to get anything close since, and I've only hooked up on them and lost them at shore due to, I'm trying to, there we go, due to wrong tackle and equipment. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, sometimes they'll take, tackle meant for other species. That's why when I fish the way I do, I've been criticized. I think people have kind of figured out what I'm doing now. I don't get this anymore, but when I first started alligator gar fishing, and I would catch like catfish and stuff just because they pick up the bait first, I would get so many people being like, bro, you don't need 80-pound line and 100-pound mono and like stuff to catch catfish. Your gear is too big. And it's like, I didn't, you can't tell the catfish they're not allowed to pick up the bait that you're intending to catch a 200-pound gar on. It's like I'm geared up for the gar, and if the catfish take it, they take it. So yeah, that happens sometimes. You're fishing for one thing, and a gar might pick it up. But losing fish at shore, that is when it happens the most. They always say that you lose more fish by the boat than anywhere else. Here's the thing I would recommend watching out for. If you're losing fish by the shore, the most common cause for that I have noticed is that people are not aware of when the fish's belly touches the ground. Because the moment that happens, when you get a fish into shallow water, if this is the bank and my fingers are the deep end, as the fish gets closer to the shore over here, its belly is going to start touching the water, and then you're no longer fighting the power of a fish, you're fighting his weight. And fishing tackle is not meant to fight the weight of a fish, it's meant to fight the power of a fish. Think about, putting a boat in the water, and you can move it around. You can push a boat back and forth, like a motorboat or something, with one finger. You could never pick that boat up. It weighs hundreds of pounds with all the gear and the motor and everything. But you can still maneuver it with just one finger or one hand while it's in the water. And fish are kind of the same way. You're not fighting their weight. They weigh almost nothing when they're in the water. You're fighting their power. And the moment you get them close to the shore, you run the risk of fighting their weight if they touch the ground. If you're losing a lot of fish at the shore, I would recommend kind of watching to see if maybe they're touching the bank too soon. There we go. Went downtown fishing. It was all right. Yep, or was I? There's good days and bad days. Also depends on what you're fishing for. What up, Wild? Just Saturday morning live streaming because I suck too bad to get a video published. Gar fishing is an art. It most certainly is. Really, any kind of fishing is an art. It's just different arts. That's the thing. There is no single kind of fishing that is just like, doesn't require any kind of skill or knowledge. It just requires different skill or knowledge. I can tell you from experience, fishing for brown trout is the most frustrating thing I've ever done. I could not get the brown trout to bite, and they were right in front of me. I could see them. And there's guys out there who could do it no problem. But those same guys probably couldn't catch, 7-foot, 200-pound alligator gar the way I can. It's like different arts require different skills. Like they're just different. So yeah, I would say all fishing is an art if you're doing it safely and effectively. High Wildlife crew, so happy to be here today. I'm glad you made it. Still can't believe Poetan lost like that. Yeah, I mean it was a really good knockout. I don't like Israel Adesanya, and Alex Pereira is my favorite current fighter, so that hurt to see. But I mean he's still up 3-1. He knocked Adesanya out twice and won a decision. Adesanya gets one knockout and starts saying the rivalry's over and he won it. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You lost the rivalry. Now, if they rematch again and Adesanya is able to win again in MMA, Then he'll kind of like bring it up to being equal. But Alex Pereira is still the better of the two. Who do I have winning tonight? Oh man. Okay, so I'm going for Henry Cejudo, Triple C. I'm going for Henry Cejudo, but I don't know who's gonna win. This is one of the best matches that's ever been made in MMA. I think it's a lot of Henry Cejudo's last couple of fights have been really, really good matches. I mean, Dominic Cruz is past his prime, and a lot of people try to throw that asterisk in there about T.J. Dillashaw being depleted on the weight cut, but nobody was saying that before he lost. People were saying that it was going to be the toughest fight of Cejudo's career, and then he won like instantly, and they were like, "Oh well, it was the weight cut." It's like, no, I think he kicked him in the head, and to be fair, I think he headbutted him too. But yeah, Henry Cejudo has fought nothing but killers, and same for Aljamain Sterling. He's fought nothing but killers. So I don't know who's going to win. I will be going for Henry Cejudo. I've been a fan of Henry Cejudo since before he was in the UFC. I met him once. Cejudo taught my first wrestling class, actually, way back in the day. First time I ever was in a wrestling class, he was teaching. And he had only had like one or two MMA fights at the time. He was in town. He was in Houston for an MMA fight. And he was doing a wrestling seminar the night before, and I was there. And that was my first wrestling class. And, he told all of us that he was going to be a UFC champion. And he did it. He got two of them. He got two belts. So actually being a fan of his from in-person training session and watching a man who told you he was going to win the UFC belt get it and then get another one is really cool. He's he's a meathead, but a lot of professional fighters are. He's not. He's one of those guys where I keep I intentionally turn a blind eye to basically anytime I see him, like who he's hanging out with or what he's saying, because it's just like, oh man, I want to go for you. Stop doing this to me. But yeah, I'll be going for Triple C. Who's gonna win? I have no idea. Coin toss. It's coin toss. Yeah, Cejudo. By the way, Cejudo's insanely fast and insanely muscular. That's something I've noticed, by the way. I have met a couple of the best athletes in the world. Um, Cejudo in a wrestling clinic. I met Simone Biles and Ali Raisman when I was working at the zoo. They were doing a tour that I had to help facilitate, so I got to meet them and kind of help take them through this tour of the zoo. It's amazing when you meet these people and you look at them and you realize that they're built out of iron. It's Simone Biles is the most muscular human specimen I have ever seen in my life. She has muscles on muscles on muscles. She looks like, you remember that scene in the Avengers where they find Thor because Thanos is blowing up his ship, and the Guardians of the Galaxy find Thor, and uh, Gamora's like his muscles feel like Katati metal fibers, and Starhawk's like, stop feeling his muscles, and Drax is like, he looks like a pirate had a baby with an angel, and Star Lord is like, he calls him a dude, and Drax is like, this is not a dude, this is a man, tall, muscular man. You're a dude. That's what it's like when you see these people in person, where you're like, holy shit, like, how are you real? It's amazing. I shook hands with Ali Raisman, and her hands are like more muscular and powerful than mine. It's unbelievable. And she's like 5'3" and like, weighs 115 pounds. And she's got like the strongest hands I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, these when you meet people like Henry Cejudo or Simone Biles and stuff like that, it's like meeting a real life superhero. It's unreal. Do I smoke? No, I don't smoke. I know my voice sounds like I do, um, but I have been sleep deprived, and my wife is sick. Hopefully, I'm not getting sick because I just got over being sick. Um, yeah, no, my voice is going right now, but I do not smoke. I've never smoked in my entire life. Kids don't smoke. You guys got to remember, I talk for a living. So, you know, I don't just fish for a living, I talk for a living. So my voice is very, very well conditioned. That's always been what I've done. I've always had some kind of job in education or performance. Um, but it does tend to go, and when it goes, because it's like using a muscle every day. Like eventually you're going to tear that muscle, or you're going to blow it out, or it's going to get exhausted, and then you can't do anything. And your voice is exactly the same. So we're reaching that point right now. Hey, Brian from H-Town Anglers is here. Let's go shark fishing. Yeah, I was gonna message you about that actually. I'll message you after this live stream. Can you tell me any tips on gar hook sets? I've been having so much trouble setting the hook; they just seem to dry up the bait. Yeah, no matter how long I wait to set. Um, well, there's a don't do it too soon, but also don't wait too long. The longer you wait, the longer these fish, and they are smarter than anybody thinks they are, the longer they have to figure out something is wrong. And a lot of the times, what Gar will do is they'll come by, they'll pick up. I'm gonna use my dog's toy here. They'll pick up a bait like this in the tip of their mouth, right? And let's say the hook is through the back of where the tag on the stingray is. That's where the hook is. These fish, they'll pick up a bait like this, and they'll start swimming off. If you set the hook, obviously you're not going to get him, and he'll probably just drop the bait. So what they'll do is they'll swim upstream or downstream. I've noticed it tends to be different in depending on where I'm fishing, but all the fish in that area follow the same pattern. So I've fished some bayous where they all swim downstream, and I've fished some rivers where they will all swim upstream on the bait, on the run. It's really weird, but they pick it up like this. They swim, they swim, they swim, and then there's going to be a moment, and you can, if you fish with braided line and you're feeling the line as they run, there's going to be a moment, and also it helps to know where they are in the water. So watch your line, get an idea of where it's going to be in the water. Generally speaking, there's going to be a moment where they're going to shift ever so slightly to one bank or the other. It's going to shift ever so slightly to one side, and you're going to feel a little bit of motion on the line. And that's the fish doing this. He's shifted over, and now he is taking that bait back into his mouth. And you can actually feel that on the line. It's real subtle, especially if they go real far out. So yeah, wait for that shift. Usually they'll stop moving or they'll slow down dramatically. So they're moving, they're moving, they're moving. They shift, and they stop, and you start to feel that. And that's the bait being taken. And then they start going again, and they'll speed up. So whenever you have that moment where there's a shift, a stop, the chew, and then they take off again, count to 5, set the hook. And when you set the hook, I don't know if you're using singles or circle hooks, but I'm going to say it's the same for either. The circle hook is a little bit more complicated, but basically what you want to do. I can't tell if that is just a lot of gray in my beard. I'm getting a lot of gray hairs now. I'm getting old. Anyway, what you want to do is basically point the rod tip up, close the bail, or set the drag for using a multiplier. I like to let them pull the rod down, so basically they do the work to take the slack out of the line. They're moving, they're taking up slack, they're taking up slack, they're taking up slack. The rod is straight. They hit the end of the line, and the moment that happens, you hit that reel as fast as you can. The moment they hit the end of the line, you reel as fast as you can and set back. And when you set the hook, you're not setting upwards. It's like fly fishing. If you watch guys who fly fish really well, they don't set the rod up. They set the rod back like that. So the top of the rod is going up, but the premier motion is you are dropping your hips. You're dropping your hips back into that fish. And then you hit him again. You hit him once, boom, reel down, hit him again. Go again if you have to. 3 times if you have to, but at least twice. And then it's just keeping the fish on. But yeah, I go over this in more detail, and I go over it, obviously you can't see me actually imitating the motions. In that video that I made on how to catch an alligator gar, one of the things I go through is the hook set. And I would recommend just kind of watching that. But yeah, don't wait too long for the hook set. Try to see if you can find the pattern of where they shift, stop, chew the bait. Sometimes they'll change directions, but sometimes they just slow down and speed up. When they speed up again, let the fish take the line out. Then you set, reel down, set again, real hard. All right. Is there anything else I want to talk about before I get out of here? But yeah, we definitely need to go get some sharks. Let me know if you are free this week, actually, because that actually I think it's supposed to be raining all week. Again, these forecasts, like, God, they're just so unpredictable. That you get the forecast and it's like, oh, it's gonna rain all week, and then the thing is, what I do, and I'm seeing other YouTubers in the comments, too, because you do it too. So much of it relies on planning in advance. Where you're going to go, what kind of bait you're going to get. Sometimes you have to go get bait, like you have to actually go on a mission to catch bait so you can go on the mission to get the film. You have to rig all this tackle. You have to get everything in order based upon like forecasts and the weather and stuff like that. And then it all changed last minute and everything you've done is for nothing. So yes, it is supposed to rain all week, but hopefully I'm hoping that it just either is mild rain or it doesn't rain. But yeah, see what he's saying exactly. You're saying exactly what I was just going over. Weather's been so bad. All right, take care, man. Get on those alligator gar. Should look at tropical tidbits or pivotal weather. There are weather models on there. The weather forecasts suck now. Oh, suck nowadays. Yeah, no, they definitely do. It's amazing because like actual meteorologists are some of the most incredible scientists in the world. They really are. But the newscasters who like give you this information, they just have to talk about what they're given. Like they have a deadline. They're gonna be on TV. We're live in 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're on. Like, and they don't have time to talk about all the caveats to the information that they're given. They just have to present things in a very standardized way within a very limited amount of time. So the forecasts are never actually an accurate depiction of what even the meteorologists are anticipating. But that's all we get, so it's hard to predict the weather. Oh, are you really a meteorologist? That's fantastic. Yeah, so no, the meteorologists are great. The newscasters are, they're going off a script. They're going off a script they've been given. They're not actually the ones figuring this out. They they have this much information to squeeze into this much time, and they don't get to give the caveats of how things are actually changing. And I would imagine being a meteorologist is, a biologist. You study things that have happened for hundreds of millions of years. You study things that are observable 100 out of 100 times. Whereas with, when you're trying to study the weather, it could change at any moment. You don't need a degree to be a newscast. You're just reading what you're reading a script. Yeah. You have to look good on television, basically. When I was doing the rounds of interviews for the alligator gar that I caught last year, when I was getting interviewed by like every news station around, I was just blown away by, and I don't want to name anyone in particular because a lot of the newscasters that I spoke to, I actually genuinely liked. But I'll say there was one interview I did where the newscasters, it was amazing to me how fake they were. It was, they're, and I get it. You're doing the same job day in and day out. At a certain point, you just kind of have to be a machine. But it was just like, they were just like, and now we're on. It's like, they would like fake laugh. And like the moment the camera was off, they were like, oh my God, like, Okay. Like, it was amazing to watch them flip back and forth. It was hilarious. So yeah, carp fishing question mark. Is it What's the question? Am I going to do more of it? I just did some carp fishing recently when I did a creek fishing video. Also when I did I don't know what to call it. The waterway that I fish sometimes. It's not really a creek, but you know the one. I always try to mix some carp fishing into those ones. That can't be psychologically healthy. Oh, turning on and off like that. I don't know. I mean, think about it as being like an actor. You're playing a part. It's like being a stage actor or a film actor, and you're not putting as much art into it, but you are basically just playing a role for the camera. And I'm not gonna lie, I do that sometimes. I'm a little bit more candid in these live streams, but like, I promise you, there are videos that are already posted where I was screaming internally or furious about something or really, really upset and just like wanting to just pull all my hair out. But I turned the camera on and faked it. There's been a lot of videos you guys have seen where I'm talking about something enthusiastically. I am not enthusiastic about it. I am acting. So, yeah, everyone who works on camera, and I mean everyone who professionally works in front of a camera, is a bit of an actor. They are faking it sometimes, including myself. But to your point, yeah, no, it's not it's not psychologically healthy. It gets to you. Anyway, guys, I need to buy a new what do you call it? I need to buy two things. I need to buy a new Daiwa BG for surf fishing, so I'm gonna get 8,000. And then I need good recommendations. I need a rod that I can cast lures from the beach. So not like an ugly stick or anything. Like, I need a nice rod. But I need it to be longer than the one. I was using a 7-foot rod the other day for the video that's on my Patreon, where I was casting lures from the beach, and it was 7 feet long, and I couldn't get it as far as I wanted, so I ended up having to wade out into the water. I need like an 8-foot rod or something, or a 9-foot rod that's whippy that can cast a 1 ounce lure for surf fishing. If you know a good recommendation, let me know. You can tell me. Um, well, Okuma's a brand. I need a model, a specific model. You always seem genuine. It's never cheesy when you're walking us through your adventures. I appreciate that. I'm always what's to say that I'm always genuine would be a lie, depending on how you mean it. I always genuinely love this job. Even on bad days, it's still better than other jobs I've done easily. I'm my own boss. I have my own wildlife show. I get to do whatever I want as long as I can make money off of it. So yeah, no, I love it all. There are times though when I am not being genuinely happy on camera. That it's all fake. Yes, that has happened. An 8'6". Oh yeah, that would be perfect. 8'6" rod would be perfect. Uh, we get having to summon the energy for the camera and what extra dimension you can bring us through the lens. Yeah, you got to do it sometimes. Anybody here use dark matter rods? I heard a lot of good things about those. But yeah, basically, I want something that is like 8'6" would be good. I want something I can put like a BG or a Saltiste, maybe 4,500 or 5,000 on. Cast maybe like 40-pound braid. 50, 60-pound leader with a 1 ounce lure to toothy fish in the surf. Tsunami Carbon Shield 2. Tsunami Carbon Shield 2. I'll look into that. My guess that you're faking it is when you have no when you have no bites all day and you finally roll one in and it's a turtle. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely some of it. I mean, it's not always like one thing. I mean, and a lot of it can be personal too. Like, you guys got to remember, I'm a real human being. Like, I bring the troubles of the real world into my work life, like everyone else does. It's amazing. Some people like literally think nobody on here. I'm just talking. When I say some people, I get hundreds and thousands of comments on views. On millions and millions and millions of views across the YouTube channel. So I've had more people insult me than literally any other person who doesn't work on camera, or in entertainment. The average person does not get insulted 100 times a day, but I do. So uh, some people literally think you just exist in the camera. You exist in YouTube world. You're not a real person. You don't have real problems. You don't have bills to pay. You don't have all these things going on. You don't have a little dog who will not eat her breakfast. She will not eat her breakfast. She's being so picky. We gave her. I know, baby. Can you look at the camera?
No.
Can you look at the camera, baby girl?
Don't make her.
Look.
She did not perform.
She loves me so much. She won't eat her breakfast. I gave her the we call it the bougie food. We gave her fancy prescription food from our vet, and she loved it so much. And now she doesn't want to eat anything else. The problem is it costs $50 a case.
But it lasts us for like a month and a half.
It doesn't last that long. It lasts a while, but it is still expensive, and that's all she wants now. Unless I make her breakfast. And yes, I am that kind of dog dad. I will make her breakfast. Like, I will cook her eggs and stuff sometimes. my wife is rolling her eyes at me. But yeah, I love my dog. My dog is the best dog. Your dog can be the second best dog. My dog is the best dog. But yeah, I'm a real person. I have real problems. I have real troubles. I have real family issues. I have all kinds of things that go wrong. There have been videos I've filmed where I got into car accidents on the way there, and was just like beyond frustrated with how things were going. And then, cameras rolling, action. Do we ever plan on fishing the jetties in Corpus like Port Aransas? Yes. Again, kind of going back to fishing the Trinity. I actually went there a few months ago to film, and the weather was so bad I didn't catch anything. So yes. Do I plan to do it? I've been actively trying to do it. Just hasn't worked out. I rarely put chum in the water. Can I explain? Well, chumming is most useful when you're fishing from a boat, which I don't do because I don't have a boat. Chumming from shore, if we're talking about saltwater, I find that to be irresponsible. It would be irresponsible on a safety level to put a lot of like fish chum in the water. Like say for shark fishing, because you are sharing the beach with people who are there for recreation. Putting a bunch of blood and guts in the water, just that's going to wash around everywhere when there are people trying to enjoy the water is not responsible. Because the sharks are there already, but those are the type you are contributing directly to the types of conditions where people might be mistaken for food. So I don't use a lot of chum when I fish because I'm a shore-based fisherman. It's when I do it for sharks, because you don't chum for every fish species. You mostly do it for sharks. It's not responsible based on the way that I fish for them. And then, as far as like carp fishing goes, actually I use loose feed for carp fishing, so that is one instance where I would use it. Need a recommendation. I need a rod that is super stiff to throw stiff enough to throw a railroad spike. I use this spike as a weight for a power line when I'm fishing for coho salmon on Lake Michigan in Chicago. Wow. That's a serious weight. Well, I know rods that would be able to cast a railroad spike, but I don't know if, like, what do you use for coho salmon? Like, the Denali bottom feeder rods, the heavy action, can throw like a couple of pounds of weight. They are ridiculously powerful. They're advertised as catfish rods, but I literally caught a shark on one the other day. I caught the fish into the hundreds of pounds on them. And they are very, very stiff and powerful when you get the heavy action. Heavy action Denali bottom feeder, very stiff, very long handle as well. So even if you get the casting variety, they have a very long handle. A lot of rods that are stiff have very short handles for some reason, and it makes casting them very difficult. But that one is the Denali bottom feeder heavy action, very castable, very powerful rod. Ever fished in Mexico or another country? No. I went to Mexico on a cruise, but you couldn't fish when you were there. That's really the only time I've been out of the country. I haven't traveled out of the country enough. Have you ever thought about trying a trip to the Great Lakes? Yeah, I would enjoy that, I think. I need to do a little bit more research about the types of fish that would be there to be caught in the Great Lakes. But it would be fun. I would love to go everywhere. People ask me, like, have you ever thought about going here? I guarantee, yes, I've thought about it. I've thought about going all kinds of places. It's just like, what is practical to do for me right now? And y'all are gonna be excited when we do our big trip coming up. Oh, she was sleeping. I was trying to show you my dog. She was sleeping on her back. Let's see. Are you gonna cut our hair? Your hair? I was gonna say, no, I'm not gonna cut our hair. You can cut your own hair. Am I gonna cut my hair? It depends. It depends. I mean, I'm kind of enjoying it right now. Would you believe that when I was 21 years old, my hair was literally like, I looked like George Harrison. It was like down to here. But no, I kind of enjoy it at the moment. Plus, I'm using it to make money, kind of indirectly, but challenging people that I'll shave my head if they buy those lures, or they get those lures. It does work. So having my hair long like this has actually made me a bit of cash. I might cut it eventually. We'll see. If 1,000 people got those lures between the last video I made and the date where I get the numbers on how many people did it, then yeah, I have to, because I made a deal. So if 1,000 people go get those lures out of the descriptions in my videos, then yeah, you'll see me shave my head, because I promised I would. But I don't get those numbers until like I think the 19th of each month, so there's still a ways to go. Do a salmon charter on Lake Ontario or a walleye charter on Erie. You won't be disappointed. I would love to catch either one of those, but I think salmon would be cool. Madison Gonzalez, big fan. Thank you. I appreciate it. Since you catch so many gar, have you thought about going for a certain line class IGF world record? No. Technically speaking, I actually hold a line class world record. Technically speaking. Somebody caught an alligator gar that weighed like close to 250 on 80-pound braid just the other day, and officially like got a line class world record. And I was like, wait a minute, no, I've beaten that. Like I caught a nearly 300-pound fish on 80-pound braid. Like technically, I would hold that record. I think I would hold a lot of records with that one catch. I think I would hold. Honestly, for a fish caught in a rod and line, I think if I had weighed that fish officially and gone for the record, I think I would have had the world record. It's not the biggest one that's ever been found, but I think it's the biggest one that's ever been caught on rod and line, at least on film. I swear, I bring it up every time, but I swear there was an article of a guy who caught like an 8-foot 4-inch gar in Houston back in like 2016. I have searched and searched and searched for the article. I cannot find it again. I know I saw it. I know there's a guy out there who caught one that big. I just can't find it. But yeah, no, I am not interested in pursuing records. I'm not. Just you have to put the fish at so much risk to get so many different types of records when you fish the way I do. If you're with a boat, I think the guy who got the line class record the other day was fishing with like a charter guide. In one of the more well-established ones. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't Bubba Bedry. It might have been... I can't remember the name. It was one of the other ones who's well-known. Like, when you're fishing with a guide and stuff like that, it's easier to get those records. But when you're alone in the middle of nowhere, bank fishing by yourself, doing what you got to do to get a record is basically impossible unless you kill the fish, and I ain't about that. So, my goal is not... It's not fishing-oriented. That's the thing. The fishing is the second consideration for me. Oh, my dog. Get it. Get it. She's got her favorite. Baby girl. Go get him. She loves to kill the octopus toy. Yeah, get him. There he is. Get him. The point is to be able to show people an animal and get them to care about it, to the point where they change their behavior regarding that animal or become inspired to protect it or learn more about it. That's the point. I actually don't really care about fishing records because I consider myself to be a wildlife filmmaker first, and really I'm just a fisherman by necessity. Let's see. Oh, somebody, you're saying I should get a mount of the fish, which you can do if you know the dimensions. You can have a fiberglass model made of the fish. That's how a lot of mounts are done these days. Um, and I do know the dimensions. It was 8 feet 2.5. No, it was 8 feet 2 inches long, 47 inches around, I believe. I wrote the numbers down at the time. I have to go check the numbers I wrote down, but I believe it was 8 feet 2 inches long, 47 inches around. It might have been 48 inches around. It was very, very close to being on par with the world record. Getting a fiberglass model of it would be cool to do eventually, but I'm looking around my apartment wondering where it would go. It would probably tear the sheetrock out of the wall. But yeah, I know it would be cool to have that done. The more I think about it.
No.
Why not?
I don't want that in
my... Not in here.
Like in what room?
Like when we get a house.
Like which room of the house?
I don't know, the garage. Wherever I keep all my stuff. It would be cool. Because I've already retired the fishing rod I caught it on. I don't use it anymore. The rod, the reel, and the line have remained unchanged since that video. It's sitting in the corner of my room. That rod and reel and even the line I caught it on are all still there. They're all still intact. I have not touched it since that day. That rod and reel is retired because it carries so much significance for me. Even if I catch a bigger fish, probably not going to get the same like worldwide media buzz on it. That was really something that was out of my control. Again, I think I owe so much to the staff writers at the Houston Chronicle for making that go viral. And it changed my entire life. So that has so much significance to me. Even if I caught a bigger fish, it would be cool, but it wouldn't be the thing that like shifted the course of my life. But yeah, I do want to mount that rod and reel somewhere. Maybe with a picture of the fish, like a photograph of it from the video I took. But it would be cool to have it mounted next to the actual like replica mount too, now that I think about it. That would be cool. Ever think about fishing in the Rio Grande in Victoria, Texas? I actually did fish in the Rio Grande. Again, I think I've answered like 5 questions like this. And this just goes to show how this job actually goes. I did fish in the Rio Grande a few months ago, and I didn't catch anything, so it wasn't on film. Okay. All right, as they say in the barkeeping biz, last call. I'm about to check out of here. Is there anything else you guys just have to ask me? Can you do me a favor? Can you look up the UFC event tonight and tell me who's fighting? I know the main event. I can't remember who else is on the card.
Do you want all of them, or just you want me to just give you the phone?
Just the top to bottom. So, you can just give me the phone. All right. So, Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns is tonight. Again, I'm a big fan of Gilbert Burns. I would feel so bad for Belal Muhammad if he lost this fight. He's one of those guys who basically should have had a title shot like 4 fights ago. Gilbert Burns is really good though, so we'll see. Jessica Andrade versus Yan Xiaonan. That is a really good fight. I would lean Andrade, but we'll see. Movsar Evloev versus Diego Lopez is like fighting him on like a week's notice. It was supposed to be Bryce Mitchell, and Bryce Mitchell got injured. Generally speaking, that can be a toss-up. Because neither guy is prepared, for that particular fighter. Kron Gracie is back. Kron Gracie's been gone for like 4 years. I think the last guy we saw him fight was Cub Swanson. versus Charles Jourdain. Probably going to go to Charles Jourdain for that one, just because Kron Gracie's been gone for so long. Oh, man. Look at the... Oh, man. Look at these fights that have been canceled. Man, we were supposed to have Charles Oliveira and Daniil Dariush fighting tonight. Ah, what a fight. What a fight. They got rescheduled, but man, I am a Charles Oliveira fan to death. And I have been since 2014, so long before he was championship material. Bryce Mitchell was going to fight Movsar Evloev. That got canceled. Yeah, a lot of fight cancellations recently. Stephen Thompson's fight with Michelle Pereira got canceled. It was just all these fights getting canceled. It just sucks. Do you like other sports like the NFL or something? Not really. I am a combat sports guy. I love mixed martial arts. I like boxing. I follow along a little bit with judo. I love submission grappling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
The Olympics.
Uh,
I like watching the Olympics.
My wife loves the Olympics. I appreciate other sports. I mean, the amount of talent it takes to be a professional in any form of athletics is just unreal. The other sports that I watch, non-combat sports that I enjoy, track and field. I think that is the purest expression of athleticism that the human body can display, is running, because that's what we are made for. We are biologically designed to run. So that is the purest expression of human athleticism, in my opinion, is running. I'm a big fan of rock climbing. Adam Ondra is my favorite rock climber. He is so cool. That's not a sport I can do. Like I'll do it occasionally for fun, but like combat sports, like I'm actually a decent mixed martial artist. I know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know some Muay Thai. I can box. Like I can fight, but and anybody can run. Some of us can run faster than others. And my knees are so bad I probably couldn't run faster than most of you on here anymore. But rock climbing is the sport that I like the most and that I am not good at. Like I could not successfully rock climb something. Hiking and rock climbing are not the same thing. Scrambling up a tall hill, a rocky hill, is not the same as like Adam Ondra climbing upside down with his fingertips or something. I do love watching that kind of stuff. I like watching the speed climbers when they compete, where it's like how fast can they like get from like A to B. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, combat sports, track and field, and rock climbing. And obviously, I guess if you count fishing, but that's more of work than anything. Do I consider putting a hook in a fish's mouth inhumane? No, because fish don't process. They feel pain, but they don't process pain the same way you and I do. Humans react to pain with an emotional and traumatic response, whereas fish react to pain with an acknowledgement of a sense of alarm, but not the emotional trauma that you and I do. And to think about this, just ask yourself, imagine a catfish, like a small catfish, the kind that has spines that'll go through your hand, that'll leave you screaming for the next 20 minutes. Would you swallow that whole? Would you take that catfish, spines and all, and swallow it whole, kicking all the way down? Would you swallow a blue crab? Would you bite down on a toxic lionfish? The answer, of course, is no. Only a crazy person would do that, but fish do it all the time. When fish eat other fish, what do you think a fish's dorsal spines are for? When you see fish like spread their dorsal spines up, like tilapia dorsal spines are like the sharpest objects known to man. When an alligator gar bites into a tilapia, guess where those spines are going? They're going right into that fish's mouth. I've caught alligator gar before that I pulled catfish spines out of their mouth. They do this every day because they are accustomed to having sharp things in their mouth all the time. It's not this like emotional trauma based pain that you and I think about. Fish do feel pain, but they don't feel pain the same way that you and I do. So hooking a fish isn't the same as hooking a lot of other types of animals. Now, obviously, you should still, fight the fish, handle the fish, release the fish with, the utmost care, because there's other things that'll affect fish that won't affect other animals. So, I mean, if you were to handle um, an alligator, say, an alligator, much like a fish, has a very limited ability to handle stress. The buildup of lactic acid in a reptile like an alligator will kill it very quickly if you're handling it. But let's say, for example, just the amount of contact you make with the alligator doesn't bother the alligator that much, like skin to skin contact. Whereas skin to skin contact can literally kill certain types of fish. Don't think about every type of animal in the world as all having the same sensory perceptions and all having the same psychology. They're all incredibly different. As different as animals look visually, that's how different they can react to things psychologically or perceive things through, methods of detection. So, putting a hook in a fish, if done properly, is not inhumane because fish don't behave the way you're thinking that animals that would react poorly to that do. Where can I buy see, I'm tripping over my own words now. The Denali rod. Their website. I order them online. Denali rods. Just Google that. It'll come up. Denali bottom feeder is the one I was talking about. Denali bottom feeder, heavy action. They have a casting and a spinning model. Both work great. They used to sell them in Dick's Sporting Goods, but then Dick's Sporting Goods got rid of all their fishing stuff, so I don't know who else carries them now. Watching on 2 devices, as always. One of me is more than enough. Just one of me will go a long way. Please come to Wisconsin. The Milwaukee. What was that? It is a beautiful place.
I mean, you've been.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, I don't.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
Talk about that.
I have an ex from that area. So I've been there before, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous part of the country. Also, it's amazing if you live your whole life in South Texas, when you go up north and you feel like you can breathe without 80% humidity. It feels like somebody has taken a barbell off your chest. I do love the scenery and the weather of Wisconsin. Some notably terrible memories associated with it. Would you become an alligator gar fishing guide? No, that's one of the questions I get the most. I have no interest in being a guide. None. Yeah, that just doesn't gel with what I do. I'm a filmmaker first, a fisherman second. And guiding other people sounds like a nightmare. And I've got friends who do it, and they will tell you that it is not easy to be a guide. So no, I'm not interested in being a guide. Sorry. Alex Sosa is your guy. Look him up. All right, I think that'll do it for today. Hour and a half. I don't want to go too long because I got stuff I got to do, and you can hear my voice is going. And at a certain point, you're just being like, somebody please ask me something else so I can keep talking. There's no point. But anyway, it's been a real one. Triple C. Let's get it done. C4 incoming. We'll leave you with that note right there. C4 incoming. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. I'm checking out of here. Check out the Patreon if you want the extra Patreon videos that I drove all the way to Florida to film.